Often overshadowed by its much larger relative, the Baryonyx is an underrated gem when it comes to dinosaurs. Its exaggerated claws and neck, built like that of a goose, made it one of my favorites growing up. While it doesn't get a lot of credit in mainstream media like its cousins, it still does have some badass versions in games and movies. If you thought the monster's resurrected Spinosaurus had an outrageous size, wait until you see how big some of the Baryonyx on this list are. One of them can breathe underwater and knock a megalodon unconscious with just one tail swipe, and another is more than 160 feet long and dwarfs a 10-ton mammoth. Like the raptor video, this topic was one I would put in the polls, but they would never win, so I decided to just go ahead and do a video on the strongest Baryonyx in media. Believe it or not, I'm finding this video easier to make than some of the more popular ones like the T-Rex video, though that may just be due to few Baryonyx shown in any sort of entertainment compared to the Rex. Before we start, consider hitting like and subscribe so you don't miss any videos I make, and if you're new here, I sometimes take subscriber suggestions in the comments and make videos on them, but if you find the content lackluster, then you can always unsubscribe. With all of that over, let's take a look at the strongest Baryonyx in media history. This is the only creature in Ice Age that behaves as ravenous as a land before time Sharptooth. Not even Maelstrom and Cretaceous were this persistent, and at least they were going after targets that would make the effort worth it. Rudy, on the other hand, went through the trouble to try and eat a weasel, which would be like you or me doing the most for a single raisin. Rudy is a massive Baryonyx from Ice Age 3 and the largest carnivore in the dinosaur world. His size alone makes him the strongest, one of the strongest Baryonyx on this list. People seem to lowball his size though. The most common sizes you'll see people make about Rudy is 40 feet tall and 140 feet long, which is a bit small. Manny stands at more than 16 feet tall, and yet Rudy's ankles are taller than him. At the bare minimum, Rudy would be 52 feet tall and 180 feet long. And as for weight, he's more than 70 tons. Manny is 10 tons in this movie, and Rudy is definitely bigger than 7 Mannys. Rudy will go through great lengths to capture something that would never make up for even a tenth of the calories he lost. That something was of course Buck, who's like that one friend who behaves like the most brain-dead specimen you've ever seen yet, is somehow the smartest in the friend group. Now we know that Rudy and Buck have beef because Buck took out one of his teeth. But you gotta wonder why he was even trying to target this tiny mustelid when there's a bunch of other things he can eat. There isn't any other carnivore to challenge him, because before Sid came along, even the mother T-Rex was terrified of Rudy too. Rudy is intelligent enough to hold grudges and will do whatever he can to eliminate the one who he finds unworthy to breathe the same air he does. Like this scene where Rudy has an entire buffet in front of him, but turns around to chase Buck because he kept his tooth as a souvenir. This thing has the opposite lifestyle to a paleo-accurate Baryonyx. Its claws are in a position more suited for hunting large land animals rather than fishing, and his teeth are relatively blunt for something that's supposed to eat fish. Those are more for taking down large prey and look like teeth of old male crocodiles. In terms of durability, he has it in spades. Again, this is another reason why I compare him to Sharptooth. These guys can fall from heights of more than 1,000 feet and still somehow just sleep it off like they just had a mild hangover, no broken bones, no limping, just a head shake or two, and they're back up. Rudy is pushed off a cliff and falls for at least 500 feet at the bare minimum because the fog or dust makes it hard to see the bottom. But in all honesty, it's likely at least 1,000. This guy's reputation was so great that even other apexes wouldn't dare fight him head on, like the Mama Rex, who literally had to catch Rudy off guard by pushing him off a cliff. It would have been funny if the dude somehow didn't fall off and managed to climb back up, because that T-Rex would have gotten the blue eyes treatment. In terms of scaling, I put him at city block level, and with his size and armor, it's gonna take the artillery of military weapons to put this thing down. In the end of the movie, him and Buck seem to settle their differences somehow, I guess, because we see Buck riding him and Rudy not retaliating. The only explanation is that they became friends or something, because there is no way that something as small as Buck, who weighs about 8 pounds, can control a 70-ton dinosaur. Aside from other Baryonyx, Rudy is one of the strongest dinosaurs ever shown on television, aside from the ones from Dinosaur King, because some of them are scale higher than planetary. But very few if any theropods in movies or shows can match him in power. Only theropods from video games can match his size and power, such as Ark's Giga. Speaking of Ark, the next Baryonyx is from there. This one is bigger than the real life variant too, but not quite Rudy big, yet has enough power to stun a megalodon. Is it really a surprise that the Baryonyx from Ark would be here? At this point, once it's a carnivore and is from Ark, it's going to be on one of these lists. While Ark has a tendency to severely oversize its creatures like the kaiju-sized Giganotosaurus that's bigger than Ramarak and the 600-ton sauropods, this Baryonyx is one of the more paleo-accurate creatures in the game. This Baryonyx is just slightly longer than the real-life counterpart at 35 feet long and 14 feet tall, with a weight somewhere between 4 and 5 tons. Its overall look is kind of paleo-accurate too, with the rosette on the top jaw and streamlined body, although it's missing that one mega claw the real one has. For its size, it's able to dish out some damage that just should not be possible for an animal of its size. It has a spin attack it can do in the water to temporarily stun creatures, and this can be used to stun things as large as megalodons, which is insane. The megalodons are smaller than the real-life versions, but they are very big at more than 15 tons. Now, just imagine that animal capable of hitting megalodons so hard they temporarily go unconscious. It doesn't stop at one shark though, because these guys can stun more than 3 megalodons at a time, if they're close enough. I mean, imagine evolving for millions of years just to be knocked out by something smaller than you, while you also have the terrain advantage. It isn't that outclassed by the ocean creatures in terms of aquatic lifestyle though, because this Baryonyx can be underwater indefinitely without having to come up for even one breath, and despite being a land creature, it can swim faster than most of the ocean creatures at base stats. Its size makes it one of the best creatures to go into the caves with as well. It's bulky enough to tank hits from some of the stronger creatures in the cave and powerful enough to deal the killing blow to the most annoying of cave creatures, and it has the ability to jump better than a raptor, which for something possibly weighing more than 4 tons is impressive. I think the reason it's one of the, if not the best fish gatherers in the game is because of how hard it hits the fish. I mean, if it has the power to stun megalodons with its underwater tail attacks, what would that do to something the size of a salmon? It also has the ability to rapidly heal itself if it just eats fish. It's something like Biscuit when he eats steaks. Imagine this thing chasing you near a river and you put enough bullets in it to leave it half dead, and it just eats a few fish and rises out of the water to continue chasing, all while your bullets are running on empty. In terms of power, it isn't nearly as strong as Rudy, but for its size is incredibly strong. I'd go as far as to say that at parity it's probably stronger than Rudy, but that's up for debate. What's not up for debate, however, is the next Baryonyx being the strongest one on the list. Surprise, surprise, something from Dinosaur King ends up being the strongest in the video. I mean, it's a given since all of the dinosaurs are from an anime. It's basically the Pokemon version of dinosaurs. In Dinosaur King, these dinosaurs are trapped in cards and can only be let out with the use of these ancient tablets and elemental stones. It's up to Max, Rex and Zoe to save them from the Team Rocket of this universe called the Alpha Gang, who want to gather up all the dinosaurs so that Dr. Z can become the Dinosaur King and basically practice dinosaur slavery. The weakest dinosaurs in this show are at least large building level, with some of the strongest having enough power to destroy a planet if they wanted to. The Baryonyx in this show is somewhat in the middle. At first it gets knocked around by the Spinosaurus, but that's mainly because it was too preoccupied with the fake fish on the boat. If it was focused, I'm sure it would have put Spinosaur in its place. He does end up getting defeated by Ace and Chomp, who are some of the strongest dinosaurs in the show, but it took both of them powering up to defeat it. At first it was pretty much ragdolling Ace, but it had the terrain advantage, and when Ace was on land, he was still exhausted from swimming. In the next round, where they fight on equal terms, we get to see just how strong this Baryonyx is. He's able to go head on with Ace and take some blunt hits from the Carnotaurus, who again is one of the strongest dinosaurs in the show, and when it power-ups, water is summoned from within its body or something. It can use a stream of water to grab and defeat some of the bigger hitters. I'm assuming the amount of water it can produce is almost infinite, so he can almost certainly pick up Rudy and just hit him around until every bone in his body has been broken. It takes one of Chomp's most powerful attacks to defeat the Baryonyx, which, believe it or not, is a feat on its own, because a power-up like that would most likely be used for a dinosaur like Terry or Bronticans. So it being used on the Baryonyx is crazy. Another note is that this thing was not dead after being electrocuted and slammed into the ground. Like most Dinosaur King dinosaurs, it just returns to its card form to replenish its strength until it can be released again. The dinosaurs in this game have some unchecked durability. They are able to take attacks directly to their bodies that could slice a large building in half, or even destroy a city without a scratch being seen on them. It didn't have as much screen time as I wanted, but I still think it was a good character, and is most definitely the strongest one of this list. The next Baryonyx does something a little different, since they have the ability to hunt in packs like raptors and can take molten lava to the head and still fight. This last part is going to cover two different Baryonyx, and both coincidentally hunt in close-knit packs. The Land Before Time and the Jurassic World Baryonyx are the only ones I've seen able to implement pack behavior. I was going to put Jurassic World's Baryonyx alone, but to be honest this would turn into a depressing video because the Baryonyx pack in Camp Cretaceous just has a sad plot. These guys appear in Season 2 and are named Grim, Chaos and Limbo, with Grim being the sort of leader. I'm not going to lie, these guys don't have many feats, compared to some of the other dinosaurs in the franchise like Toro, who can tank explosions to some extent. Not saying they aren't impressive though, they use pack tactics to surround and bring down prey, and can run surprisingly fast for their size. But the most impressive thing they were able to do in my opinion was jumping from rock to rock like a character out of Naruto. After this their story just gets sad. Grim was shot once and killed on the spot, and then Limbo was killed by a Rex after being mind controlled, leaving Chaos the sole survivor. I don't know if it's confirmed, but most people think that Chaos is the Baryonyx seen in Fallen Kingdom, which would align with the Camp Cretaceous timeline. On top of that, they have the same color tone and pattern. Whatever Baryonyx this is, it can take molten lava and shake it off, and then somehow survive after being locked in the bunker with lava. The lava itself is dangerous, but what possess an even greater threat are the gases such as carbon and sulfur dioxide, which can kill quickly. There is the blind Baryonyx too, but that's just a normal Baryonyx that has the same abilities as the future predator and can be confused by multiple different sounds. Speaking of being confused by sounds, that's how the Land Before Time Baryonyx were defeated. The Land Before Time versions hunt in a pack of 4 with the leader having a scar on its face. Like all Land Before Time sharp teeth, they are able to run forever until they are stopped. They're also a medium-sized theropod, which is kind of weird for this show because the sharp teeth are usually either really big or small. When Littlefoot and his friends push down thousands of pounds of rocks onto them, they are not killed, just knocked out for a few seconds. But soon after that, tons of rocks fall on them from more than 200 feet, and they somehow survive at the end. Being hit on the head, ribs and other vitals areas should insta-kill any other animal of their size, but not them. Like the OG Sharptooth, they wake up and break free with no signs of physical or internal damage anywhere. So as far as durability goes, they at least are better than Grim.
You ruthless, heartless bastard!
I apologize that I was out of line. Anyway, despite them being as strong as they are, they still end up losing when a herd of Bapialsauruses, or yellow bellies as the show calls them, bounce and shout until they Baryonyx pack back up, close to the edge of a cliff, where they fall after the ground beneath them crumbles. I mean, all the screaming and jumping would kinda be annoying and somewhat threatening, but they could have run away in the opposite direction at least. If I had to pick who's strongest in this section, I'd say the Land Before Time Baryonyx. They're more durable and have less elongated snouts, so their bite force is higher, but you guys can let me know who you think would win in this showdown. Alright folks, that's gonna be a wrap for this video. This entire week was filled with rushed videos, so after Saturday's upload I might take another break. By the way, you people had me in the first half because during the early votes, the Acro was winning, but then minutes later the Dinosaur took the lead. I kind of wanted the Acro to win because I don't know many shows or series that have a Dinosaur in it, but I'll try. Anyway, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll see you in the next video.